Power Project crew, welcome to today's show. This episode was recorded on April 28th, and it is with the STrong Sistas. Yes, Ashley and Sara Armstrong. It was really cool to finally make this connection because we've actually been getting their names recommended to us for a little while now. So it was like I said, it's cool to make this connection. And that connection initially started because of the sisters were doing a strict carnivore diet. They did it for about a year, and although they're still animal-based, they have since decided to move away from it for health reasons. And it's really I love that because, you know, so many people talk about how the carnivore diet fixes literally everything. And yet here are two sisters that are going through some disorders right now that they realized, hey, we can't just keep kind of circling around this issue. We need to hit the nail on the head and actually target what's really going on here. And that is their hormones. They need to get their hormones in line. So what you guys will see is that these two are extremely self-aware. They're really humble, and they're not, they're very open about the disorders that they've had in the past and the struggles that they face today. And I think both, especially females, but both men and women will be able to take a ton of value out of this podcast because, again, like I said, they're just so open, and they're definitely wise beyond their years and know a ton about nutrition and fitness when it comes to what's worked for them and what hasn't worked for them. So like I said, I think you guys are going to really, really, really appreciate this episode. And real quick, we are still having our home workout sale going on right now at markbellslingshot.com, but that is just till the end of the month. So you guys have just till the end of April to take advantage of that. So if you haven't already, please do so. Head over to markbellslingshot.com, add any hip circle of your choice, any slingshot of your choice, and at checkout you'll receive 20% off. Again, that is just till the end of April. So please take advantage of that while you can. And then also markbell.com. Mark Bell is still offering a free 30-day trial of for the entire website. All you have to do is register, and you'll gain access to the entire website for 30 days for absolutely free. Markbell.com is where Mark posts his workouts every single day. So if you don't have a coach, you don't have a home gym, you don't have access to your gym, probably because it got shut down, markbell.com is a great resource to help you out. Make sure you maintain or even make some gains during this lockdown. And it's absolutely free. So again, please head over to markbell.com, register, free 30 days, no out of pocket, and you get an awesome sample, and you get some help, again, on your fitness journey right now during this quarantine. Thank you for everybody for checking out this episode. If you guys like what you're hearing, please reach out to the STrong Sistas. Their YouTube and their Instagram will be linked down in the iTunes show notes or podcast show notes, wherever you guys are listening to this, and the YouTube and Facebook description. Let them know what you guys think. And ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy this show with the STrong Sistas. All right, Mark, what you got?
We need to get the Piedmontese people on the show to make sure that our food supply is good. I know we talked with Charles Brook about it, but I don't know if anybody's seen the video that's been circulating from that rancher down in Texas, talking about like his concerns and talking about like how you don't know where your meat's coming from, and it's hard to know where it's sourced from. But we're lucky to be hooked up with Piedmontese because we know where it's coming from. We're aware of the ranches that it comes from. We've had them on the show before. We got a great relationship with those people. And the meat tastes really good. It's tender. It's juicy. It's everything that you're looking for in a steak. But, man, that is kind of a crazy thing that, it could be, several years from now where, you're buying meat at the grocery store, but it's from some other country or something like that. That sounds a little... That sounds kind of scary to me, especially with what's going on. These viruses and these different things, they come about because we are not, it's things that we're not commonly not in contact with. So for us to eat something that's, from a complete different country, how that can result, the results of that, if you travel, sometimes you eat something on a trip to Spain or a trip to here or there, and next thing you know, you're spending all day on the toilet. So it's great that we have meat that we know where it comes from, and on top of that, it can get us jacked and tan.
I've never heard somebody that's messaged me about Piedmontese tell me anything negative about it. And that's what makes me so happy about it, because literally everyone that's eaten this meat Loves it. Everyone loves it, including myself.
Yeah, I know. I just got a message today, actually. Somebody was like, man, like, don't let anybody tell you guys anything different about doing, ads in front of the podcast. It took me like 100 episodes before I finally dove into Piedmontese, and you guys ruined it. You guys ruined it because now I can't get any beef from anywhere else. And so I was like, well, thank you, but sorry, but thank you, and you're welcome.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Yeah, those are some jacked cows out there, and they provide us some amazing meat.
Yeah, and I mean, Nebraska, so I know people will get a little upset sometimes, like, oh, support your local butcher, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, if everything kind of, that video was,
Nebraska ain't that far away from anybody because it's kind of in the middle of the country.
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, support the United
States.
Yeah, support the Americas. Don't buy meat from Brazil. Nothing against Brazil, but it just doesn't make sense to me to get meat from another country when we can get it right here, and you can get it delivered to your door, and you can get it for 25% off when you head over to Piedmontese.com. That's Piedmontese.com. At checkout, enter promo code PowerProject for 25% off your order, and if your order is $99 or more, you get free 2-day shipping. And on top of that, it thaws out real quick too. I don't know if you guys noticed that. It cooks fast, but it also thaws like even faster than like normal.
Yeah.
It's not usually the meat isn't like super thick, and so I think you lay it out on the counter for a little bit and it's good to go. Also, I mean, all you need to do is throw some salt on there. We've talked about that before. When you have good quality meat, it's really not any more complicated than whatever spices that you like. But I mean, I usually just put salt on there. Very rarely do I get any fancier than that. Maybe I'll use some of that organic seasoned salt from Redmond's, and that's about it.
Speaking of spicy, my shoulders got a little spicy during our workouts. One, because just that's a lot of push-ups, but also the sun, I got burnt. I was like, what the heck is that? Yeah. I know. I was like, shoot. But I think that shows like my soreness level is about the same parallel with my burnt level. Like compared to you guys didn't really get burned and you didn't really get sore. I got a little bit of both. So I'm like, okay, I'm further away from being jacked in 10 than these guys, obviously, but further than I want.
Dude, I've been getting really tan out here. It's been awesome. I'm definitely just keep changing some different shades. I think by the time quarantine's over, I'm going to be looking like Nsima. That's the goal.
There we go. Dude, I don't get you people. I've never been sunburned, yo. I love it. I've never been sunburned in my entire life, and I just live outside. It's great.
Yeah,
It would probably take you a lot to get sunburned, huh?
Yeah,
it would take a lot.
Yeah, I normally don't really get burned, but just this was like the first time being out in the sun, so I guess, yeah, it happened. There they are.
Hello. I don't know if we can hear them.
Not yet. They're connecting. There we go.
Hey guys.
Hey.
How's it going today?
Hey, good. We have like 78-degree temperature here in central Illinois, so we just sat out in the sun. Excellent. For like 30 minutes. It felt so good.
We were just talking about sunburn, and Nsima was making fun of us because Andrew and I can get sunburn. You girls look like you could certainly get sunburn if you're out there for too long, right?
Yeah, we're quite pasty right now, to say the least.
How have you guys been keeping up with some of your strength training during the lockdown?
So we transitioned to our garage gym, which hasn't been bad. We have like a makeshift squat rack with like boxes on both sides. We're trying the best we can. We've got some bands in there. You can get a good workout in with just like some resistance bands. So we have one set of bumper plates, a Rogue Ohio bar, power bar, and some other plates. So we can get a decent workout in. But it's good timing because our like focus right now is not necessarily strength training. Yeah. So the quarantine happened at an okay time in terms of our strength focus.
I find it really embarrassing that you go to do like 30 squats and for some reason it totally and completely burns your legs. You're like, how am I so unfit? Once you start doing some body weight exercises, you realize how damn difficult they really are.
You've been doing like 100 body weight squats or something?
Yeah, I do 100 of them every day. I try to do 100, 200 of them and push-ups. Just kind of throughout the day, I try to do them. But yeah, I've done 100 in a row before, and that kills. Not push-ups, but squats. It just makes your legs go on fire.
Oh yeah. We were doing a lot of BFR training. I don't know if you've done BFR for quads, but that burns for sure.
It's painful. It's really painful.
That's the blood flow restriction stuff, right?
Yeah, we'll tie it like at the top of our quads and do like 30 reps, 15 reps, 15 reps, 15 reps. Quad pump.
I think that would kill you if just body weight.
Yeah. That sounds like a real killer. Something I find interesting about your story that you guys have, and I think there's a lot of other people that share the same thing, and men as well. It's not just women, but predominantly we see this with a lot of females where they're trying to exercise. They're trying everything they can to, be the ideal female of society, right? And they're trying to be thin or trying to lose weight. And it's really a brutal thing because a lot of females fall into that a category where they don't feel comfortable with their body. And so therefore they try to do something about it. They go to the gym and they start exercising and they think, okay, I'm going to go on the elliptical and I'm going to, do a bunch of this. I'm not going to eat because I maybe had a couple of drinks on the weekend and maybe ate whatever I wanted on the weekend. And I'm going to, work off some of these college pounds that maybe I gained or whatever the case may be. And they're kind of chasing after this, body that's probably not very realistic for them. But then a lot of girls like yourselves find strength training and you're like, oh, this is kind of fun. And it's actually, oh, wow, it's acceptable to have thicker legs. It's okay to have a bigger butt. And then, and the goal is about what your body can perform and not so much 100% about what your body can look like. Can you guys expand upon that a little bit and kind of elaborate on like what that's done for you by getting into strength training?
Yeah, honestly, I think the biggest thing that came from it was just this sense of like empowerment. So kind of what you said, shift the focus from what your body looks like to instead what your body can achieve and what your body can accomplish. And I think the most powerful thing about it is that it's always you versus you. Whereas this ideal body image is always you versus some unrealistic thin model that's probably been photoshopped to look a certain way. And so I think that that's the most powerful message about strength training is it's just this like honoring of what your body can accomplish. And you're always working to improve yourself. You're not comparing to anyone else. And that's just it's so powerful. And I think that was a huge part of my like confidence development journey. If I could take like look 10 years back, I haven't always been very like confident in my abilities. And then I insert strength training and like that confidence in the gym really transformed how I viewed like the rest of my life. And it gave me such confidence to just tackle other things in life. So like, hey, I just hit like a 385 pound deadlift today. I can go accomplish anything today.
It's ironic because we didn't like find the confidence in our bodies until we stopped focusing on them. So when we started to focus on strength and said, you like get into the gym, you get into a good routine, you actually have fun at the gym, strength training, and then the results come with that when you stop focusing on just like fixing your body or what's wrong with it. So it's kind of ironic how that worked for us.
Yeah.
Cool. And like, how exactly did you guys get started? And the reason why I ask that, because there are some females who they may be like, they want to be able to run a mile before they join a gym. They want to be able to do X amount of push-ups before they actually try a bench press. So what was the scenario to get you guys into weight training?
Yeah, so this is kind of a funny evolution. I have really always been into working out. I was like a huge jock in high school and did like a bunch of different sports. And so working out was just a part of my routine. And I'm actually like 3.5 to 4 years older than her. So being the older sister in the house, I like made her work out with me. And we were fortunate to have like a little gym in our house, in our basement. And so we started there. But me forcing her to do it didn't work very well. And so she didn't get into it.
I was chubby and I couldn't do like exercise ball sit-ups. So I just teased.
My brothers tried to force me into lifting. And like the first thing they showed me was squatting because they're like, you're going to learn the right stuff right off the bat. And like the second I put the bar on my back, I was just crying like a little baby. I was like, that hurts my back. That hurts my neck. Can I use that pad thing? And they're like, fuck no, you can't use that pad.
So she didn't really find her love for strength training until I pieced out for college, and that gave her like this ability to explore training on her own, and she eventually started with bodybuilding and got into strength training.
Yeah, so at the time, this was like back in early high school, I was dealing with an eating disorder. And so I really needed a therapeutic outlet. And the gym actually became that. And that's how I kind of repaired my relationship with food too. And so just a long evolution of just trying to focus my body, like how we were talking about before, turned into when I went to college, focusing on strength. I think what propelled me to go into the weight room and actually go into the squat rack was just feeling, this sounds silly, but like I was self-conscious at the gym because I didn't. So like I felt too weak to use a squat rack and to like take somebody's place or like be in some man's way if I was going to use the squat rack. So I started to go in at really early unconventional times so I wouldn't be in anybody's way. And I realized like the more and more I squatted, I got better at it and it was more and more empowering. So
you were going at like 4 a.m.
It was ridiculous. I started with just strong lifts 5x5. I had no idea what I was doing. But it's one of those things you literally just start and you do the research online, you watch form videos, and you will get better at it. Like there's no reason to ever think you're in somebody's way because you're all in the gym for the same reason. And so finally engraving that in my mind gave me the confidence to just start. And then I eventually encouraged her to join me. Well, you were working out while you were in college, but get into powerlifting, I guess.
Yeah.
So shifting from just like trying to grow my biceps to like squatting, deadlifting, and benching.
So she definitely started with building confidence by going at unconventional hours. I've always kind of had this, like, you've already said this word, so I'm just going to say it. I've always had this like, fuck it mindset. I would just go into the squat rack, but
yeah,
that's just who I am.
I always made her ask the person if we could work in or something.
I'm professional RBF, resting bitch face in the gym. No one come talk to me, please. Whereas everyone will come talk to her because she always has a smile on her face. But yeah.
I'm curious about this because you kind of mentioned it before that you started with bodybuilding and then got into strength sports. And I want to get your point of view on this because I notice this with a lot of men too. Some guys, when they start with bodybuilding and they do their shows, et cetera, they're really focused on their body and they can't get out of the idea of like trying to get stronger and perform, put on a little bit of body fat to help them in the gym. What do you guys think about that? Like getting into figure before strength sports? What's your thoughts?
Yeah. So you're saying like they can't break that mindset of like, oh, I may have to gain some fat to actually make progress.
Make progress and even feel healthier because some people are just so stuck on being single digit body fat all the time.
Yeah.
That is so, I've never thought about that. That's so true.
Yeah. I think that like I said, I was coming from an eating disorder background. And so I was already small to begin with. And I was almost insecure that I was small. Like I was saying, like I couldn't get into the squat rack because I felt too weak and too small. So I almost just like needed to shift my mindset and wanted to get stronger. And I knew that was going to come with weight gain because I really did look into things. I can't say that didn't cause some problems along the way in my mind because I suddenly would see myself as like chubby or something, but I never would have, deadlifted 400 pounds or bench press 170 if I hadn't put on some weight because like the person I was in the past, my like frail bones, there was no way in hell I could have done that. And so I understand the mindset. I think that if you just like, you do some self-reflection and you look like, I look at my entire high school journey of bodybuilding, right? And I look the same year after year after year because I just kept doing the same thing. And so it's almost, you just have to self-reflect and you have to honestly look at yourself in the mirror and say, 1, am I feeling good? Am I healthy? And 2, do I look the exact same as last year? And if so, you should probably change some things up. And I will say that me at my smallest was not my healthiest either. And that's something I'm learning right now and trying to get our periods back, our hypothalamic amenorrhea journey. I realized that the low body fat I was sitting at is just not healthy long-term. And so it's part of that self-love journey and realizing that like you will be stronger and healthier even if you're a little more chubby, but that doesn't make you any less worth.
Okay, but just a quick reflection on what you were saying though. You were like reflecting on like our past training history because we started with a bodybuilding mindset that has always held us back because we've always been like, I got to hit my accessories today. Like, how are my quads going to grow without doing leg press after squats? And so I think if you're someone who's come into strength training with a bodybuilding mindset, your obsession of doing higher rep hypertrophy work is going to hold you back because you look at people who started with strength training and they're totally fine with going in benching, squatting, piece. Whereas if you look at like what we used to do, it's like squat, bench, leg press, leg extensions, chest press. Like, so just had probably overdone the hypertrophy work. Whereas if we, like you said, if you would have taken a step back and realized like, hey, if I just put on more body fat and I do a little bit less volume and focus on my strength, I'm probably going to get stronger. So I agree.
Like there's a reason your brother started you with squats. It's more effective than all the other random things after that.
Did both of you struggle with eating disorders?
Yeah. So mine was in high school. I was like 14. I had dealt with anorexia, which led to bulimia. And it kind of stemmed from she struggled with orthorexia.
So I was never like anorexic or bulimia, but I've always been orthorexia. So always like a focus on I have to eat healthy. I have to get my exercise in. And unfortunately, my mindset was so strong about this during my development period. So during high school and undergrad, that definitely affected my hormones and like my like just general growth.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's a negative consequence of like female body focus for sure.
And you were talking about the low body fat. I think that's something that isn't talked about enough in fitness world is like, are your hormones fucked up? And I don't even know if we know when to tell that. Like we just don't really pay attention to it.
Yeah.
So we honestly have ignored it for a really long time, which is not
anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did you guys discover that you had a disorder?
Eating disorder?
Yeah.
Oh, it's obvious. I think you can really tell when somebody, like, especially me, I think some of this, okay, so it's hard to say that, like, going to the gym and wanting to eat healthy is an eating disorder, but when it becomes obsessive and you won't go do anything else, I think that's when you need to take a step back. I don't think there's anything wrong with really caring about, like, you're getting to the gym 5 days a week and, you know, eating your meal prep foods. But I, like, for example, I didn't go to prom. And I didn't go hang out with my friends at a certain point because I had to go to the gym. And so I think that's when the problem arises. Again, this was like 10 years ago. And even now people will say, like, if you stick to some sort of eating plan, like, for example, when we were carnivore all last year, they're going to say, like, hey, you have some sort of eating disorder, even if you're doing something for your health. So it's tough to navigate that.
Yeah. I think whenever it becomes like a severe restriction and it takes over your mind, that's kind of a good indication of maybe this is too focused. Maybe you should take a step back and reflect on your main priorities and your main goals.
Yeah. I think maybe the main thing there is just to make sure it doesn't become like a disease, you know, make sure it doesn't, become such a addictive habit that it negatively impacts a lot of other parts of your life. If it's adding to your life and you're into bodybuilding and you're pretty militant about it, I don't really see the issue, you know, but exactly. My main concern would just be, like is it negatively impacting your life? The cool thing about powerlifting is, you know, you can get away with throwing in some Doritos here and there. You can get away with eating some ice cream, especially a lot of people in the lighter weight classes just to try to hold on to their body weight because sometimes from the exercise, they tend to like lose weight. And so therefore you can kind of have a cheat meal here and there. Are you guys fans of like having a cheat meal here and there, or just like how do you guys handle that? Do you just take a couple days off of a diet, or what works for you guys?
Okay, so I agree in terms of like the whole Dorito thing. We take a different approach now, but so after dealing with the orthorexia in high school and we got into powerlifting, we really adopted that whole like if it fits your macros thing. And I think that really repaired our relationship with food because we realized like if you have ice cream, you're not going to die or you're not going to blow up. And so that really helped. We definitely were those like, yeah, powerlifting, I'm going to eat like I did one squat. I need gummy bears right now. And it's like, girl, no, you don't. But that really helped me, right? Like I felt comfortable eating those gummy bears. I was confident. And so I think we overdid it. And that's how we ended up with our autoimmune conditions. We just like stressed our bodies out, weren't paying attention to our nutrition as much as we maybe should have. And so after that, now we do not really do cheat meals. We went through a full year of strict carnivore, which is probably how we got to on this podcast. And that really helped heal our autoimmune conditions. And now we're on the flip side and we're trying to find more balance. So we're incorporating other things back in that make us feel good. And honestly, I feel the best I have in my life. But we definitely needed to go through that stage of like eating everything to realize like, you're going to be okay.
And I think reflecting on our past, we now realize like how good we feel when we focus on quality food, whole food sources.
Yeah.
What was the autoimmune disorder?
So we both had undifferentiated connective tissue disease, which basically just says like your ANA levels are high, and then you kind of look at your symptoms. So my blood work was aligning with lupus. So when I went to my rheumatologist, she ended up prescribing me with a few different medications to just like bandage that. And luckily my mom is like really holistic, and she said no at the time. I was 18.
And the doctor basically said like, you just have to do what you can to hold off symptoms, and lupus will eventually come.
And she was the first person who said you have to stop like lifting heavy. And so I, of course, said no. And I was like, that's not happening.
And she also said stop strength training.
Lifting heavy.
Oh, sorry. Going in the sun. She said stop strength training and stop going in the sun.
So of course I said absolutely not. And so when my symptoms kept getting worse, I realized like maybe you should change your lifestyle a little bit. I, of course, kept lifting heavy for a few more years, but I did start paying attention to my diet more then.
I'm curious about this too, because you guys were talking about currently you were dealing with amenorrhea. Is that current? Now, was that caused because I've worked with women who have to get so lean, and because they get so lean, that causes that. Now, with you guys, was it because you were so lean? Was it an aspect of the diet you were eating? What was causing that, and what's the flip side to that?
Yeah, so I have dealt with amenorrhea, so hypothalamic amenorrhea specifically. We don't have PCOS for over 10 years. So yeah, it's like looking back, it's been an incredibly frustrating journey. But like I said, I dealt with orthorexia during my development stages, and so I got one natural period when I was 16, and then it never came back naturally. And I've been to a series of endocrinologists, and the only solution that was ever prescribed to me was, hey, you need to put on weight and put you on a birth control pill. So I've been on over like 5 different birth control pills. I've had an IUD, and all of them were just leading to like horrible negative consequences. And so I haven't really found a good solution. So I got to this point of like, well, I feel fine because I don't know what it's like to have normal hormones. I've never had normal hormones, so I'm just going to ignore it. And so I just brushed it under the rug and didn't deal with it for a while. And now I'm kind of dealing with the consequences because we did like a bulk last year, and then we planned to do a cut. We started a cut in February of this year. We cut our calories low, and they had to get lower. And eventually we're like 800 calories lower a day than what we were eating before, and we were gaining weight. And so our bodies were like really signaling to us, hey, it is not the time to cut. Something else is wrong. And Sara and I really reflected, and we're like, we should probably finally address this because it's not talked about enough. But like, if your hormones aren't functioning properly, you are living a suboptimal life. And it's funny, reflecting on all my years of strength training, like I've limited myself because I haven't had normal hormones, like muscle growth, strength growth, like strength. It's so important, and it's incredibly frustrating with how I've dealt with it, but we're finally at this place now.
I did have my period like periodically throughout all this time, and so we're not like the same there, but I definitely lost it after going keto, low carb, and then full carnivore.
And she did a bikini competition last year.
But it never came back, and so it's not that I'm saying that low carb or carnivore is not okay for females my age, but I think that you just have to be careful, especially if you're super active. I think the biggest issue is the consistent heavy training over the past few years, and then compiling on that our low carb, zero carb diet for a while there. I think that was just kind of, it didn't work out that well at the end for our hormones.
It seems pretty rare for people to get involved in exercise at such a young age, especially when it comes to females. So do you guys think there was anything negative there, that maybe you got into it too early, or do you think maybe just like dove in too hard, maybe at such a young age? Well, you mentioned the eating disorder, so obviously those aren't going to be productive for anything. But do you guys think that you got into like exercise and stuff maybe like too young?
I think we got into exercise without proper nutrition too young. I don't think that's too young for females. And you're going to see trends nowadays. Like if you look up like Fitspo on Instagram, there's like, 12.
Are they 12-year-olds?
I don't know. Like going in there with like their Gymshark leggings on. So I don't think it was that. I think it's just like I cannot stress enough eating enough. for like what you're doing, especially during that period. Like nobody tells you how much you're supposed to be eating. I think like the general thing is like 2,000 calories. But if you're in your growing stages and you're lifting weights, I mean, I would say it's probably like 1.5 that.
I would say for me, it was definitely a combination of too much physical work and not eating enough. I played golf in undergrad, and so I was doing both lifting and like the golf requirements. And so just a lot of energy expenditure and certainly was not eating enough. And I'm also just a really type A personality. And so I think I just had like cortisol overload during my development period that just kind of hasn't gone down. And I think that was one of the main reasons for my hormone issues. Did
your parents know about any of this? Did they try to like intervene or help or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I went to like several nutritionists, but of course, like when you're going through a disorder, you don't really listen to anybody. It's like you have to eventually come to the solution yourself. That's what I found, at least in my experience. But yeah, they've been supportive. And then even though to the outside world, carnivore probably seems like an eating disorder, they've been supportive too, because that's been for our health. And now they're even more supportive on the other side.
I definitely went through a little bit of a challenge with my parents in this because they are they're older than me certainly. And they thought that the solution was me just getting on the pill. And I knew too much about the pill, how horrible it is for female hormones. And so I was really butting heads with them on the pill. And I was just getting so frustrated that was the only solution that I was being offered. And so there was definitely some conflicting things there, but where we are now, they've been throughout the whole thing, they've been supportive. And so I think that they're super proud of where we are now, that we are finally trying to fix the root cause of it, not just like bandage it.
So I want to see if I can understand. I want to just understand a little bit better what you were saying the root cause is the root cause for what's going on right now? Is it being too lean and being too active that has just stressed you out too much? And that's it. Or were you not necessarily eating enough when you were doing carnivore and keto? Like what's it there?
Okay, so that's interesting. We definitely were eating enough with carnivore. We haven't been, besides for my bikini competition, we haven't been like super lean, especially in our powerlifting years. I've weighed 50 pounds more than I am now, and I still didn't get integrated.
I weighed 20 pounds more.
It's not really body weight. I think from the research we've looked into it, it's just like the accumulation of different stressors. So whether that's from school, not meditating, or not having a healthy relationship with your body. If like suddenly you're insecure, that's a stress on the side. And then the inflammatory foods we were eating, and then the lifting a lot of the weights without like taking a break. And so I think it's just a combination of all those things.
When we went carnivore last year, like I gained 12 pounds. She gained,
I've gained like 15 since 15? I went. So it's not that, but I just don't know. We've been looking into a lot of research on like fixing your thyroid and your metabolism. And there is some indication that possibly females, especially if you're active, like really could benefit from the carbs because they are stress relieving in your body. Whereas like if you're relying on your protein to turn like your gluconeogenesis, that's another stress. And so we were likely just stressing our bodies out too with our diet, even though we were eating enough. And so
I would also add in there that we were doing time restricted feeding. So some form of fasting every single day. And that's a stress on your body. Yeah. So we would only eat in like a 6 to 8 hour window because you scroll through your Instagram feed and that's what everyone's doing, right? Like you scroll, someone's post.
Well, that depends on your feed.
It's true. Someone's post is like, hey guys, I'm starting another 3-day fast, or hey, I'm doing OMAD today. I'm only eating in a 2 hour window.
It really takes like stepping back to see like, is that health trend really healthy for you? It's really, you get caught up in that.
Yeah. So we've now removed the fasting. We're eating like a lot throughout the day, increased our calories significantly, have added in carbs, are still animal based, but it's definitely a change from what we were doing last year.
How'd you guys find the carnivore diet?
So I have, in addition to my hormone issues, I've dealt with chronic constipation my whole life. And I really honestly tried a lot of things like laxatives weren't working. Just, I don't know, like psyllium husk, Miralax, like trying all these things that just were not working. And so, a lot of extra fiber. my friend suggested trying the carnivore diet for my dad, Justin. I was like, sure, why not? I read and listened to a ton of Dr. Paul Saladino's podcasts, got really into it last year and just dove right in. And I said, okay, I'll do 30 days, try it out. So I did the full, like, just beef, salt, and water for 30 days. And then I realized how good I felt. And then a year later, I was still doing it. But we were still ignoring that hormone issue at the end. Yeah.
Were you able to poop?
My constipation definitely improved. You have less waste when you're on a carnivore diet, that's for sure. But it's funny, when I first switched to carnivore, like in those first 30 days, I went 21 days without pooping. So that was like a real test for me. Like, do I actually want to try carnivore? I think my body was just very confused going from like high fiber to zero fiber. But yeah, eventually a few months in, I was much more regular. So that was really nice. And that was a huge, huge benefit.
Yeah. It's like along our health journey, when trying to get our autoimmune conditions under control, we started with a lot of fasting. That got us into keto, and then keto eventually led us to carnivore. And so throughout this period of time, we kept seeing our inflammation go down, symptoms disappear. And so when coming to carnivore, it's like the ultimate elimination diet. So of course, like, our inflammation at the lowest it's ever been, feeling great. But it's all relative. We were feeling great compared to how we were feeling before. And so now it's like, well, can we feel even better, by incorporating like non-inflammatory items and seeing what actually works for us and actually fuels our ovaries, if that makes sense.
Did you two notice any other benefits that like other females would be into? Like, was your hair, skin, and nails, like, did they get better on carnivore?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things I would deal with a lot was like rashes or eczema, or if you know about lupus, they have like the butterfly rash on your face, which is like the rash over your nose. And that all went away. I think that carnivore is great for skin health. My hair has definitely improved, and I think that is a lot to do with the bioavailable nutrients in animal proteins.
But I would know we have a cup of bone broth pretty much every single day. And so I think that that's an important piece of it. But our nails were growing super fast. Our hair was growing fast.
I think like the main reason that I could encourage someone to go carnivore is because you learn so much about animal-based nutrition. Yeah. And it's far superior than plant-based nutrition in terms of the availability of nutrients and then the not getting anti-nutrients. And so your body's just absorbing so much more health at a certain point. And we felt that right away.
And so then certain bodily processes start happening like they're supposed to.
Yeah. So absolutely. Skin gets better, hair gets better. If you've been in ketosis before, your brain and cognition improves. I don't know if that's like you should be in it all the time now that we're seeing that, but absolute other improvements as well. Yeah.
Either one of you ever have anxiety or depression?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's a great point.
Has food influenced that at all, or diet,
so when we
lifting?
were more like the plant-based, I was dealing with a lot of panic attacks and kind of severe insomnia. Going to carnivore, that drastically reduced. But since we've added in more plants now, those haven't come back. And I think it's because our carb sources are a lot smarter. We aren't, and then we're also like our protein is animal based, whereas before we were getting our protein in from, I don't even know, like egg whites
and like residual peanut butter.
Yeah.
Like no honey.
Yeah. But now that we're taking like a much better approach at like a whole food diet, those symptoms are not coming back. She definitely dealt with depression.
Oh yeah. Well, I think that's like hand in hand with having some sort of eating disorder at a certain point. And that definitely all improved. And then also just feeling more in control of my health. I've just naturally felt better. I think that is just a entire weight taken off my shoulders, is the fact that I suddenly feel okay and I don't have to stress about that every day. And I think that like I was saying, you learn a lot about food. And so I think educating yourself on like how you can actually manage these things instead of feeling helpless is really empowering. Yeah.
I'm curious about this for you guys, because you're mentioning how you're reincorporating different types of carbohydrates. And I mean, I eat carbs, not an insane amount like I used to. I used to eat like 400, 500 grams a day. It's much
400.
400. So yeah, I want you to talk to us about some of the considerations women should take potentially when they're going to enter into a potential keto or carnivore, and maybe why carbohydrates might be something they want to incorporate either a small amount of or a larger amount of.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it really depends on where you're coming from.
Context is key.
Yeah. So if you remember our story, we were smaller. Well, when we came to keto, we were actually kind of at our largest. But I think if you're somebody who's dealing with like insulin resistance or PCOS, then
metabolic dysfunction of some form,
then like you will benefit from the keto or the lower carbs to an extent.
And so you've seen a group of female individuals who they have PCOS and they go to a keto or carnivore lifestyle and their period comes back.
Yes.
But we're on the opposite side of the spectrum. And so kind of knowing what your potential hormonal issues are is super important.
Yeah. So we've gotten a lot of messages from other women who have gone keto or then went zero carb carnivore who are dealing with a very similar issue. They lost their cycles. And I think that it's not talked about enough to realize how important it is that you have a regular cycle and that you're ovulating. Just for your, like literally, so if your goal is to look good, it matters for that too, right? Like you will have a harder time losing fat or putting on muscle if your hormones aren't working. And I think we lose sight of that. And when you were talking about like, people never take a step back and get out of that like 24/7 lean. Like you have to get out of that for your hormones too. And so just considerations is like doing that self-analysis here. Like, am I actually feeling great? Do I actually feel good when I'm fasting? Like, how do I feel when I have like, when I'm zero carb versus keto even? And so for us, the main reason we stayed zero carb is because we were afraid at a certain point that if we added anything back in, our autoimmune condition would come back, which is just a flawed way of thinking. What was wrong before was more of the like inflammatory items. So like things like for us, cruciferous vegetables, nuts, and seeds. So we learned a lot about that. And so now we're not doing that on the other end, and nothing bad is happening. So you just have to really see how like what your needs are, and don't just like stick to something because you think it's healthy. Like keto may not be the best option for you.
But if you really are interested in trying the keto or carnivore diet, I think considering just how much you're fasting, I think that too much fasting,
like hand in hand with
too much fasting can definitely negatively impact your hormones. And fasting is just a huge thing in the keto and carnivore community. It's almost like ingrained in this, like in the diet rules. So definitely be careful about how much you're fasting. And then there's also some people who had a normal period and came to this diet and they then lost their period, but they regained it by carb cycling around their period. So you can look into people like Danny Vega's wife, Mara Vega, so Fat Fueled Mom, and Cassie Wild. These are two of our friends who are on a more keto and carnivore diet approach, but they make sure that they include carbs cycled around when they get their period to keep it regular. So I think considering maybe carb cycling and how much you're fasting are two super important things for female hormones with this way of life.
Let me ask you also, when you mentioned fasting, because when we mentioned fasting earlier in our conversation, you kind of like brought up 3-day fast, etc. Are you kind of putting fasting in what would be like maybe time restricted feeding, where we're talking about just like eating 12 hours, not eating 12 hours? Would that be fasting to you? Or is fasting prolonged 24, 48, 72?
I think that it encompasses all of them. So we just have to be super clear on what type you're talking about. Now, taking a step back and kind of not following these strict guidelines, I personally think that a better style for female hormones would be not necessarily time restricted feeding. So eat your breakfast if you want to eat your breakfast. You don't have to eat in a small eating window, and instead implement prolonged fasts maybe 2 times a year for health benefits, not for like fat loss or weight loss. So do those 2 prolonged fasts for autophagy and all the benefits of it, but you don't necessarily have to do it every single day with time restricted feeding. But we were doing everyday time restricted feeding, breaking our fast around like 1 or 2 p.m. and ending it around like 6 or 7. And I think that combined with the amount of activity that we were doing just did not work.
But like context matters and your goals matter too. Yeah. Like if you want the health benefits, then do the more like periodic 2 to 3 day fast for autophagy. But if you're like struggling to lose weight and it helps you to eat in a window, then like that makes sense.
Yeah. If your main focus is losing 100 pounds, then yeah, that's fine. But if you're at like a comfortable body weight and you're in your like prime fertility years, that may not be the best idea. To fast every single day. Yeah,
I think when it comes to fasting, it seems like something I've been promoting from the beginning is, maybe you shouldn't fast every day. If you're going to fast, maybe try not to be too aggressive, because I've noticed that it accumulates, just like training. If you're training heavy, it's great. It's really beneficial. So is hypertrophy work. But do you go in and do the exact same thing every day? Like, do you try to, have that much accumulation on yourself all the time? And maybe for short periods of time, maybe for a week or two, or maybe for, you're prepping for something, maybe it makes sense. But yeah, people do need to be careful with how much fasting they utilize. People should check out a video that Thomas DeLauer just put out, I think just a couple days ago, but there's a study that just has been done recently talking about the benefits of utilizing intermittent fasting intermittently and using it more like every other day rather than, because I've noticed that myself. It's like if you fast 20 hours Monday through Thursday, by the time Thursday comes around, it's really kind of just weighing very heavy on you. It just doesn't feel great.
Yeah, absolutely. We're following a very not strict, but like a very different protocol right now, because we have a very specific goal of healing our hypothalamic amenorrhea. So we're actually working with the doctor, and she's not letting us fast at any time during the day, just because of our specific goal. We are communicating to our ovaries, turn back on.
It's like, so you were talking about a 20-hour fast, 4-hour eating window. It's interesting because you see that as super healthy, but like you said, you did it 4 days in a row and you weren't feeling that great. You really do have to take a step back and analyze hey, is this actually making me feel good? Because I think you can just have it in your mind oh, this is the best thing to do for my health. But are you actually functioning at your best? I don't know.
So I think in summary, don't get trapped in the dogma.
Yeah, there you go.
And don't evaluate your health based on a certain guidelines or diet rules. Instead, base your health on actually how you're feeling, which is
what we're trying to learn.
Which is hard to do this day and age.
Yeah.
Because you're just bombarded with all of these what's healthy, what you have to do. You have to fast every day to be healthy, rather than listening to our body, who is incredibly smart and intelligent and will send signals to you. But for some reason, we just all ignore them. I know that I've been ignoring them for the past 10 years.
Yeah. What kind of carbs do you guys have in the mix nowadays?
Yeah, so we were coming from 0. So we went from 0 to 75 real quick. And then I was just hey, let's go up. So we went to 150 because I read somewhere along my researching periods that 150 is a good middle ground. And now we've tried, I don't know if you've heard of Ray Peat. He has a lot of nutritional information in terms of metabolism and thyroid. So we've tried higher carbs. Some days are 300.
Yeah.
I think what's so great is that I don't feel attached to a certain perfect macro split anymore, because I've tried everything and I realize I can always go back, nothing bad is going to happen. Everything's okay. So,
but in terms of types, we've added in a ton of raw dairy. So drinking a ton of raw milk, raw honey,
absolutely,
squashes, tubers, and fruit. So that's kind of the 5 carbs that we've added in. We really think that so far we haven't seen any negative consequences with those. And we really think that those are some of what we call benign carb sources. So in the keto and carnivore community, you hear that plants have anti-nutrients and toxins. We think that those 5 are going to be the lowest anti-nutrients and lowest toxins.
Ray Peat, by the way, I think he's 147 years old, so he must know something about nutrition that the rest of us don't know.
Keeps going. I don't know either. I was wait, this dude's still alive because I watched him on YouTube. I'm really intrigued by what he has to say. I think what's so cool is you can just pull pieces of different diets together to form your ultimate diet, and that's really what I'm trying to do right now. Instead of being 100% carnivore, it's no, I'm some Weston A. Price, Ray Peat, carnivore. It's fun.
I really like what you guys said about the dogmatic approach in terms of dieting and fasting, because, I think one of the things that a lot of individuals need is maybe just a little bit of structure. So when they fall into fasting, they're okay, I'll eat in these 4 hours, I'll fast for 20 hours, right? But if you just have a set time each day where you'll have maybe meal 1, meal 2, meal 3, whether you do have a breakfast, and then you have another meal at lunch, then you have another meal at dinner, at least there's some structure there, and you're not eating all day long. Now, I'm curious about this with you guys, because again, you're coming from a very specific place of not eating, you didn't eat much in the past, and you were just very specific about the things you ate. Do you guys still utilize a structure, or do you just eat when you feel like you need to eat?
So when we were doing carnivore, we were definitely just doing a structure just because we thought that that's what was best, right? We were getting our fasting in every single day. So therefore, check mark, healthy. But now that we're in our like healing amenorrhea journey, we definitely have a structure. And I think that that helps with any sort of like healthy eating style that works for you.
Well, because like you said, like it helps people to have that. So we were eating 2 meals a day before, and now we're at this point where we are not fasting. So we have like 5 meals or 6 meals to fit in our day. And so if I didn't plan that I'm going to eat like at this time or around this time, I would probably end up skipping that meal on accident or eating it way later. And that could be negatively impact your goal, your whatever you're working towards. And so I definitely encourage that structure.
Yeah.
Even if it's like just a small snack if you need it, or you do want to fast until lunch, like having that to stick to is beneficial, because if you just are snacking all day long, that's just going to continue to spike your blood sugar, and like that's a whole nother problem.
That's a super good point, because with carnivore, we had a very specific structure, and then we made this relatively big change, but we switched to another structure because that just helps us stay consistent. Yeah.
Have you guys tried a bodybuilding style diet?
Yeah. So that I would say that was
kind of, we're definitely doing like the vertical diet approach.
Not really. We were never meat heavy.
No, that's true.
But back like when we first started, before the whole If Fit Your Macros, which I'd say If Fit Your Macros is very bodybuilding too now. We definitely were like, bro. So I learned everything I knew from bodybuilding.com before I went to STrong Lifts. So I was eating like my green beans and my
broccoli on the airplanes,
my chicken breast, my oatmeal, my protein oats. So we've pretty much done every single diet, but we've never been like animal heavy. And I think that's when we finally found our
That was the most powerful thing about that.
Because we were like finally getting our nutrients in.
Yeah, it sounds to me with the way that your minds are working now that really any approach would work, because you have a different stance on it nowadays, to where you're not going to, overwork yourself, overtax yourself, and undereat. So maybe even a bodybuilding style diet would be of benefit, because you still understand the importance of eating salmon and eating steak and eating some fattier foods here and there, and then also just relaxing about the whole damn thing here and there, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I think that a meat-based or meat-heavy bodybuilding diet would work.
Without much processed food.
Yeah, I think that'd be good.
Yeah,
I agree with you. I think like really any approach can work, so long as you pay attention to nutrient-dense foods at a certain point.
Cool. You guys do any cardiovascular training of any kind, or HIIT training or anything like that?
So we're really into like the powerlifting, bodybuilding mindset of like, if I do any cardio, my gains are out the door. I can't run. My leg muscles are going to shrink.
I already suffer from stick legs, so there was no way in hell I was getting on the treadmill.
So we didn't do cardio for a long period of time, but we like to kind of cycle that in. And so 2 years ago, we were like, hey, let's just improve our mile time. And so we focused on our mile time for a few months and then got bored, so we cycled it out. But
now we just found a balance, and we just do NEAT. So we just walk every day.
15,000 steps every single day. Light steps, keeps us active, keeps our dogs active. We have 3 big dogs. Yeah. And so I'm a huge proponent of zone 2 cardio, especially for fat loss. And I think that that's probably one of the most powerful tools for fat loss, but our goal isn't fat loss right now. So therefore I'm not doing zone 2, but sometime in the future, when I have normal functioning hormones and I actually want to do a proper cut again, I'll be implementing zone 2 cardio, I think.
Zone 2 puts your heart rate at approximately what?
It'll depend on your cardiovascular abilities. And so, for example, like a cyclist who's like really advanced, it will require a more intense activity level than someone like you and I. But I like to say that if it's the max activity level that you can still hold a conversation at. So if you can still converse with me and like you're starting to like slightly get heavy breath, that's like the perfect point.
I think you could base it off your resting heart rate.
Yeah.
And so for mine, which is like around 70, I think my zone 2 is like 120 to 150 or something.
Yeah.
That's an estimate.
So for us, that was like a light jog and then I'm switching off with a mom walk. So we would switch off between those two to keep our heart rate in the target zone.
Yeah. That looks like a dance more than a walk.
Yeah, that too.
It really is. The mom at the concert.
Nice. Yeah, I was going to ask, like, when did you two, like, I guess I'll use the term, like, become self-aware? I don't even know if that's, like, the right way to put it, but like you guys were talking about depression and anxiety, and there's other women and there's definitely a lot of dudes that won't like want to come to terms with that, right? Like they won't admit that like, yeah, I am a little bit upset today, but no, I'm such a dude, I'm gonna just power through it. So like where do you think like I guess being so humble came from?
Well, essentially, when did we recognize I'm 23, I'm 21, I think it was at the time. I'm 24. I shouldn't feel this way. I need to make a change. Probably 2017.
Are you asking how we came to that? That's like a really interesting question, because you're right. A lot of people just live day by day.
And you're kind of told that like, hey, at a certain age, you're just aging. So brain fog, you're going to get tired. It's just a part of getting
more about like depressed and anxiety.
Yeah.
So I think for me, I went through a really bad relationship. And so when I finally got out of that and I was like still self-loathing and still upset, I realized like there's something wrong inside of me. Like I shouldn't feel this way. And correlating it to my diet took a lot of time. I think it really helped that we lived together. And so, we like kind of helped each other through recovery, if that makes sense.
I think the most important part is educating yourself. So we got to a point of realizing, and we learned, which you're not told, that your mind and your gut are connected. And so once we kind of learned that made us like dive into reading more about it. And then you realize, hey, my diet is actually probably a cause of this.
Yeah.
What can I do about it? So I think educating yourself on the matter is super important.
We also had a neurotransmitter test done, and we showed like just absolutely no happiness hormone.
There was nothing happening.
And so that was a big red flag. And I haven't gotten it retested, but I do feel a lot better. But I wish I had a better.
I think all women should get that test. I'm kidding.
Man, that's true though. And I wish I had a better answer, more helpful answer, because like that is such a huge problem. Like people really just go through their day and not really. Why are you laughing still?
Oh no, I think that was great. I just really, because I just think it's like so powerful. Like you guys recognize like this isn't how I should be. And so I guess, yeah, like how was the start of like being, like, okay, I'm unhappy. How do I get happy? And you guys just said it yourself. So you self-educated. And I think that's very impactful for people to hear.
Yeah. I think it also took a diagnosis of an autoimmune condition, because it was the same thing. So like a lot of the other symptoms I was dealing with, like one thing that made me unhappy was the fact that I had like red skin, or like I had acne. And so finally having an understanding of what's going on, and realizing that a side effect of this is depression too. And so I feel like a lot of people are actually probably living with autoimmune conditions and don't know it. Yeah. And so having that diagnosis finally to realize like a lot of stuff's going wrong and you can actually fix it, that was probably the point, like the turning point.
I'm curious.
I have a 12-year-old daughter, and I guess question number one would be, do I tell her that she's not allowed to date until she's like 25, or do I just like let it happen naturally?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. I would let it happen.
But kind of more seriously though, do you guys think you can date too young? Like, what's been your experience, I guess?
Okay. So I had a lot of gym boyfriends in my mind when I was 14. But I
thought only guys did that.
I learned this one rule on the radio: you can't talk to your gym boyfriend.
No. Yeah. Go talk to her, dude. No way.
No, you can't do that.
Talk about like dependence.
Oh yeah. I think,
that's it.
Okay. So I ended up in a 4-year relationship from age like,
13. 12?
I don't know, my freshman year of high school to my freshman year of college. What happened was I lost a lot of my independence, and ultimately because it didn't work. I'm not saying that's going to happen to everybody, but I think just like your girl needs to go through like some sort of growth period on her own to learn about herself and not feel so tied to somebody else. So she needs to evolve on her own. And I don't think that there's like necessarily dating too young, but I think like being too obsessed is a thing too young.
Being too dependent.
Yeah. Yeah. So she needs to like get a hobby, get her in the gym. I'm sure she already is, but yeah.
Gotcha. I don't want to I hate to sidetrack from that, but I'm really curious about this with both of you guys, and we can come back to this idea again. But have you guys ever had, like, when you were younger, when you were starting all the fitness stuff, did you ever have like sleep issues? Did you ever have issues sleeping enough each night? Was that ever a problem? Because what I've like found is that a lot of individuals that I started working with, they didn't get enough sleep. It's like generally they'd be getting 5 hours on average, 6 hours on average. And then when that was fixed, kind of a lot of things cascaded down. So was that ever an issue for you, or was that always something that you have handled?
She's queen sleeper. So I have an Oura ring.
Well, I read on bodybuilding.com that I had to sleep to grow.
Okay.
You have to sleep to grow the muscles. So I have an Oura ring, and we'll wear it on occasion just to keep things in track. She is like an expert deep sleeper.
Yeah, so I will step out of this conversation.
In high school, I was fine at sleeping. My sleep schedule, my sleep hygiene went to crap in college. As an undergrad, I was maybe sleeping like 4 to 5 hours a night and became very reliant on caffeine. And so that was a negative spiral. But then going to grad school and moving in with my sister, she made me realize how important sleep was. And so I have significantly improved my sleep hygiene, and sleep is moved much higher up on the priority list. And so we've made a lot of changes to improve our sleep. But I do think that if you're looking to like add supplements or change your diet, I think take a step back first and reflect on like, am I prioritizing sleep? Because that is like one of the number one priorities and should be your building block, your base. And that needs to be addressed before you add on like supplements or other things like that. I totally agree with you. And I saw a huge improvement just by improving my sleep habits after undergrad.
Cool.
You guys have like a hierarchy in terms of, have you thought of like a hierarchy in terms of importance, in terms of the things you guys do each day that helps you out? Not just with food, but I guess in terms of this, the things that you do.
Yeah. So I would say our walking outside. So that's like combining steps and sun, if there's sun.
I would say that's two things. So NEAT, walking.
Yeah.
Sun exposure
for trying to get like
literally letting the rays hit your eyeballs for circadian rhythm regulation. Mm-hmm. Whole food sources.
This isn't an order of importance. This is just like our non-negotiables.
And sleep.
And then we still like to get some sort of like movement. I guess if that's some sort of working out, or if we're just doing steps that day. Oh, and dogs.
So you guys end up training together a lot?
Oh, we only train together. Ever since we moved in together, she's my only training buddy.
Well, we like kind of switched. So I've always remained strength focused, and I'm still strength focused today. But we kind of switched paths when she started a bikini competition. January of 2019, she started training for it, and her focus definitely went away from strength training. So she was going from like the standard like deadlift, squat, bench to just more of like the hypertrophy work. And so I would say since then our training's been a little bit different.
Yeah. So I've had to do that because before my competition I weighed more, and so I always lifted more. And then she started lifting more than me, and like, that's not okay. So I had to just like separate myself. I just couldn't deal with it.
Yeah. How was the experience during the competition?
Okay. So I said I got into lifting around like at the beginning of high school. So it's always been something I wanted to do. I was always like inspired by the initial like 2014 Instagram Fitspo people. Probably not the best thing. And so finally, like fast forward, 9 years, I finally felt like at the most stable with my health. And that means my mental health too, that I felt like I could do a bikini competition where I wouldn't develop some like bad relationship with food or hurt my body or anything. And so it was a really good experience. If not for that experience, I don't think we would have come to carnivore actually. At a certain point, I did the competition keto. So I did it really, because I was still trying to manage my autoimmune condition then. So I wasn't confident enough to move away from keto. I learned a lot about my health.
But at the start, we got into like a fight because she had a horrible first coach for the first like month.
Yeah. So I did, he had me doing 30-minute HIIT sessions on the elliptical or stairs 7 days a week.
At the start of
my prep. So like, remember when I said I have stick legs? Like goodbye any quads that was ever there. Oh, it was horrible.
So for anyone that's doing a competition, do your research and find a good coach.
So that did not set me up for success initially. And then I ended up working with Steven from Pro Physique. And he was really responsive to me wanting to stay keto. I don't think that keto is necessarily like optimal for a competition, because I think there is something to be said about carbs filling you out. But that my entire prep, I didn't deal with any like hangry or brain fog because I was in ketosis. So I think that's one benefit that could have been derived from it. But I learned a lot about my body, and I'm very grateful that I went through that experience, although I won't do it again probably.
What again, with 12-year-old daughter in the house, I know Andrew's got a young girl at home as well. What are some signs that parents should look for if their child starts to go down the same path that you guys went down with eating disorders?
Yeah, I think skipping meals maybe, or like clearly eating less, I guess, or like only sticking to healthy options if it's kind of like an uneducated reason, meaning like they're like afraid of fat suddenly. So like they're going for the low fat items.
That was me. Having a restrictive mindset and removing a food group.
Yeah.
So for me, I was definitely like the bodybuilding bro, like rice, whole wheat bread, whole grain bread, and I avoided fats. So I was very much carbs and protein. So I think looking to see whether someone is like really restricting a certain food group at such a young age, I don't know if that's the best thing.
It's really hard to distinguish between health conscious and problem, like we've already kind of talked about. And I guess like red flags that I know that my parents noticed was like no longer going out to any event that would involve eating, because I didn't want to eat in public, or I didn't want to have to like eat what they were eating. And then just like skipping hanging out with friends and stuff, because like, again, you don't want to eat with friends. Or more extreme, I guess they wouldn't know, but like not going and eating in the lunchroom at school. So like eating in private, or being afraid to eat out. That's like, it's such a hot topic for me. It's so hard because it's a scary time. It's like your developmental phase, and you develop your confidence and your mentality then.
I've been talking to my kids, since they've been really young about nutrition and, what they do. My daughter is 12 and my son is 16, but I've just shared it with them since they were really little. So I could say it to them whatever way I wanted when they were really young. I don't talk about it that way anymore, but I used to say, hey, if you eat too much of that, you'll get fat. Yeah. And my entire family's pretty fat, and I'll say, hey, you'll look, as fat as I did, in these pictures, or I'll say, you're going to look as fat as your aunt so-and-so, or whoever I can reference, that was in the family, and just say they're not very healthy. They can't move as well. They're on blood pressure medications. Like I would say that to them when they're very, very young, not trying to scare them and not trying to make it crazy. But anytime we talk about food, because kids have questions about food and stuff. And now it's more like, they'll say, they might ask a question, why do you eat so much protein? And then I can just say, well, protein's the most satiating. It helps fill me up. And then that way I don't have to be hungry for all the other amazing foods that there are. And I can keep my calories, in check without me going bananas, right?
Yeah. I think you just hit it. Like, you have to educate. So lead by example and educate.
I would say be careful about like saying you will get fat.
He doesn't say that anymore.
Because this just like to other fathers maybe, because I heard that growing up sometimes, and I do think that negatively impacted my mindset.
Oh, I got you're going to eat all that? And I was already chubby. So like in my mind, I'm like, oh gosh. So I no, like I'm not saying anything bad about my dad, but I think like parents do have a really big impact.
Yeah.
And I definitely think that things he said in the past correlated to how I ended up.
So not focusing on like what your body will look like, instead focusing on, hey, if you eat this way, you'll be able to do all this stuff. You'll be healthy for so long, and you
won't be restricted. Yeah.
That's very well. That's actually extremely well said, because I was going to ask, like, how can we better than because like my daughter, she can tell you like what's gluten free, like what's keto, like why protein is so important, but she doesn't really like know exactly why it weighs so, like it has so much weight. But I think what you just said, explaining like, hey, if you do have more of this, you'll be able to do more of that. So thank you for putting it that way, because that was actually what I was going to ask you next. So that was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, for her age, it might be like she may be able to play more, like go to the park and run more. Yeah.
Let me ask you guys this. You guys have a lot of knowledge as far as nutrition is concerned now, and you understand where a lot of misconceptions may lie. Do certain things nutritionally still make you uncomfortable to do? As in like days where you're trying to eat more carbs, does that still in the back of your head make you uncomfortable doing it, even though you know it's not really a bad thing for you?
Oh, absolutely. So we were on a morning walk this morning, and Sara and I, we're working with, like I said, we're working with a doctor who's helping us heal our hypothalamic amenorrhea, and she wants us to hit like a target calorie range to make sure that we're consuming enough. And this is the first time that Sara and I are kind of just doing like YOLO macros. We're not sticking to a specific macro range. So this morning, I literally go to Sara, hey, tomorrow I'm going to do a high fat day. I'm like, I feel weird about including all these carbs. I'm gonna do a high fat day. And it's ingrained. It's ingrained after eating this way for so long. She kind of took a step back and was like, okay, that's fine. I think
it's funny because like she's talking about she wants to eat high fat when most people will be like, okay, I'm eating low fat. Cause like everyone's afraid of fat, right? And so I've been the one doing more of like looking into repeat and looking into like healing your metabolisms and your thyroid problems. And so I see the benefits of eating more carbs. So I think the whole educating yourself is so powerful. And I know that's going to look different for different ways. But of course at the start it was really hard, but I think when we realized that nothing bad happened, we started to be okay with it. Yeah. And I think
I ate plants and I have survived.
Yeah. And keeping your why, like you're at the center of your focus. Like, why are you doing this? Because I want to have babies, right? Like I want to have kids. And that's so much more important than having a six pack.
And Sara does a good job reminding me like, this isn't necessarily like, this isn't long-term. So there's no way that I can say right now that the way that I'm eating is going to be best for me in a year. I think the most powerful thing to have is this ability to allow yourself to evolve, to find what best diet works for you at that given point in time. And so Sara's always reminding me like, hey, we have a very specific goal. And the longer that we don't stick to it, the longer it's going to take for our ovaries to turn back on. So like, what is your goal? The more you can stay aligned with that goal, the faster that goal will come.
Yeah. I mean, you guys all coach people and you know that like, for yourselves, if you wanted to get lean, you know what to do, right? And so either work with someone who knows what to do or educate yourself to feel confident knowing like, okay, I can gain some weight right now because I know how to lose it. Like everything's going to be okay.
I think we've kind of diverged from his original question.
I don't even know what you asked.
Okay.
We just ramble.
Of like, there are still underlying, it's hard. Dogma diet culture is so strong regardless of what corner that you're in. And it's going to stay with you. But
I have a takeaway so we can stop the rambling. I think what we've learned is that the most fundamental thing is just eating, like, for the most part, high quality, high nutrient dense foods, like formulating your diet with that. And then like whatever else you add in, you're going to be okay. Like if you hit those like fundamentals, you know? And so if somebody's on carnivore, to them, that would be, you know, hitting the liver once a week or something. Or if you're, it looks different for everybody, but I think that is like, that's key.
Yeah. Speaking of,
sounds to me, go ahead, Andrew.
Like people being dogmatic and this like odd community that we're all a part of. Were people upset when you guys said that you weren't going to be full carnivore?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I don't mean this in a bad way, but when you share things on social media and then you make a change, everyone all of a sudden becomes an expert, right? And we
like to call it mansplaining. There was a lot of mansplaining. Where there were men telling me how to get my period back, and I'm just like, can you please tell me about your period? So it's been really interesting. And I think that, so like we YouTube and we Instagram. And so we have our YouTube family and our Instagram family. And so coming from people, like we've been called like the Carnivore Sisters and stuff. And so we really put ourselves into a box. But we also have a really supportive community, like who's more so just like our friends instead of like, I only follow you because you eat meat. And so It's been nice, but of course there's those people who are like, girls, you're eating vegetables, like something bad's gonna happen.
Overall, there's been a tremendous amount of support, and we've actually received a ton of messages from females who have been dealing with the same thing.
Yeah.
Plus, we've also received messages from people who are doing carnivore saying, thank you. I was feeling guilty for adding berries to my plate, and now I don't feel bad.
Yeah. Like being more human.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, the diets are always going to change for people, whatever is working for you at the moment. Not that it won't work for you. Not that it won't work well for a long time, but I think that it's important to evolve, and it's important to research and to pay attention to all the different stuff that's out there. Plus, it's fun. It's fun to change it up. It's fun to, be on a different plan and stuff like that. What I've noticed with you guys here is that this just seems to be like a massive reinterpretation of all the stuff that you originally thought about nutrition. Have you been able to maybe take a lot of the stuff that you have reinterpreted in nutrition and then been able to do that in your regular lives? Like just as an example, maybe in the past, maybe you were more triggered by something somebody said, or, are you kind of like almost thinking that you can take a lot of the things that you learned from nutrition, because originally you thought those things were true. You thought those things, this is the way I got to do it. This is the way I need to act. This is the way I need to train. And have you kind of taken that and taken it into your regular day to day?
You're kind of saying, are you saying like question what you used to know?
Yeah, basically, in general, like you guys have reinterpreted, what you once thought was true for nutrition, and then have you been able to do that in kind of your day to day with maybe things that you thought previously?
Okay. For your work and stuff.
Yeah,
I think like having more flexibility. So realizing like you don't have to be anal about something. I think that applies to like every aspect of my life now.
Yes.
So like this is a fitness related example, but if I walk for 10 minutes instead of 15 minutes, like that's okay, or if I didn't finish all my work in one day, like I can move it to the next day. I think absolutely, like if you're coming from a really
type A restrictive.
Yeah, she's more type A than me, but I mean like that's very clear now. It has been really relieving to realize like you can relax in several areas of your life, and that'll actually get you further. Because if you're more wound up all the time, like eventually you're going to snap.
Okay. I kind of saw your question as like, never get like too comfortable or stuck in a certain routine or a certain diet, and always question or always challenge what you thought you know. Because science is always evolving. Science has a half-life. So I thought you were saying like, now it seems like you've kind of questioned and evolved through questioning yourself and questioning whether that's worked best for you.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Okay. I think that is so important, because science is evolving, you're evolving, your environment is evolving. And so like what works right now may not work in the future. So therefore you should always be questioning what you thought you know.
It's so applicable because we like formed our social media identity around being carnivore.
Yeah.
And we're not carnivore anymore. So we had to be like, wait, who am I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like how it ends up like, obviously the context of our whole conversation matters, but it seems like, some people are coming from a place where they don't have enough structure. They don't have enough rules with their eating. They eat all the time and they eat too much. And then they need to kind of restrict a little bit, and then they end up restricting too much. And then they have to come out of that restriction to end up at the middle ground. And you guys were restricting a lot, and you had to like, it's kind of like you went in one direction and now you're right back at the middle. It's like, there's so much nuance, even there's some days where I don't eat any carbs. There's some days where I eat extra carbs. It's just like, I feel like a diet culture can really, it can fuck people up. It can put them into a box way too easily. So I like this conversation a lot.
Yeah. No.
Dogma is scary. And especially now that social media is growing, like that's where people learn. They learn from other people. And I think that blindly taking someone else's diet and someone's way of living and just applying it to you is just one of the worst things one can do. I mean, there's no guarantee that it can work for you, and you get narrowed into a box, narrowed into this like strict mindset. And I'm guilty of it. For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The dogma.
As you guys have been going through this, have you, has there been other like realizations maybe with like your training? Like I know that you guys were saying that you were, shifting away from strength, from strength anyway. So you have any different goals with that sort of stuff?
Yeah.
Fitness?
So I think one thing we realized is like you can take quite a few off days and maintain your muscle. Nothing bad's going to happen if you take an extra off day. And also taking a step back and realizing like going like hardcore every single day, although it seems like the best option for like maximal gains, it's really not. Like there's so many other things that play a role. We've ignored our hormones, for example, for so long that we could have made so many more gains had we fixed that way back. And so I think just realizing that, and that's allowed us to take a step back and be okay with taking a step back. Because for two people who've gone to the gym 5 to 6 days a week for 10 straight years, it's been a challenge.
It should have been very easy for us to lose weight back in February, but It was a challenge.
So realizing like you can take a step back and like focus on something else in your life. And like so we want to be farmers. So like we're going to be farmers next year, like we are. And realizing like lifting up that bag of food and putting it somewhere, that's a workout. So like your way of working out can evolve. All those years in the squat rack and deadlifting, like that should have trained you for something greater.
I'll be able to pick up lots of feed bags.
Yeah, lots of feed bags. So like that's kind of cool to realize because you're not a slave to the gym anymore. And I hope that the quarantine has actually like provided that for so many people, have caused them to get more innovative with what they're doing. Like you're doing your body weights, Do you guys
have you learned anything maybe negative about goals? Like in the past where you like setting goals and you're real meticulous about it and maybe now, maybe you don't set goals or what have you maybe learned from that process?
So I used to be someone who wrote out like every minute of the day what I would do. And I've now evolved in how I approach goal setting, and I think it is a lot more realistic. So instead, keeping your long-term goals always in mind, always written out, so more of like the 6 month to year, but then allowing yourself to be flexible day to day. Someone else who isn't like me may need more of the structure, but I like you brought up, like I'm on the restrictive type A personality side. So therefore giving myself more freedom and flexibility day to day and not getting hard and mad at myself for not accomplishing everything on my to-do list. And allowing like, you can do that mañana. It's okay. And having that kind of mindset has definitely helped, I think, ease my anxiety.
Your goals are important.
But I think goal setting should never, like you should always do that. You should always reflect on them every couple of weeks.
Why is that your goal?
Yeah. Reflect important on your whys.
Yeah.
Cool. So you guys said you're going to be farmers. Please dive more into that.
Okay, I need to clarify. I said feedbacks. We are going to be regenerative farmers, but pigs and chicken have to eat feed. So I'll be picking up the chicken and pig feed. But one of the best things that has come out of our carnivore journey is our appreciation for what ruminants can do to the land and how they can repair the soil. This is something that has literally become a crazy passion for us. And we've developed incredible relationships with our local farmers. Last summer, we went on like what we called tour day local farmers, and we visited a bunch of different local farmers, got to know them, saw how they manage their land, how they treat their animals. And we've developed a really good relationship with White Oak Pastures. We have visited them multiple times and have learned a ton from them about regenerative agriculture and the powerful things that animals can do to the land. So what animal impact can do to repair the health of the soil.
I think that we appreciate like animal protein so much and what it's done for our health that like playing a role in the creation of that for our community in the future is something that we really care about. And then also just like the lifestyle that comes with it, I guess. So like kind of detaching from like the standard millennials go work in the city and like you just 9 to 5. I think like not wanting to be a part of that and wanting something different for like how I raise my kids is like a huge motivation for us to do that. So those are just a few reasons why we want to farm.
Another reason is you see this upcoming generation just getting more and more plant-based and talking about how farming an animal like beef, for example, beef cattle, and they're so horrible for the environment. Whereas like educating people and showing that, hey, regenerative agriculture is actually one of the best things that we can be doing for the environment.
We could ramble for, you should stop us.
I think that's really cool. I've been saying this for a long time. I mean, people care about stuff until it's inconvenient. And I think that, I think environment is so much that way that it's like beyond trying to think of all the negative environmental impacts that we have. Even just like where I'm at right now, I'm kind of in a beach area, and just like running and walking throughout this area, there's always a leaf blower. There's always a weed whacker. Like every single day when I go on my run or go on my walk, I see at least 2 or 3 of them every time. It's like, what environmental impact does that crap have? You know, and no one ever brings it up. No one ever talks about it. They just talk about cars and cows pretty much. Right. And they don't talk about, some of the things that you guys are bringing up here, I think is great, because those are simple things that folks could do. You could just put your money towards companies that believe in things like that. It's a little bit, again, if it becomes too hard or too complicated for somebody to do it, they're probably just going to put their hands up and be like, screw it, I don't really care. But if they can do so in a convenient way and support ranchers that are doing what you guys are mentioning, I think that's great.
Yeah. We try to just make it like approachable for people, because I think like our generation has gotten really out of the habit of like knowing where their food's actually coming from and just relying on the supermarket. So kind of making farming sexy again. Yeah, I guess that's our goal. Yeah.
So let me ask you this: like, you guys have built relationships with these, I guess, also farmers. But what is your intention? Are you guys trying to have like a ranch with cattle, or like what is it that you guys are trying to do? Educate people? I'm just trying to figure that out.
So first generation farmers, going to document the crap out of it and start a farm.
Somebody wants to start a
GoFundMe,
a reality show, and I'm looking for 8 figures.
No. So I think both. So start the farm, but then also share and document and educate along the way, because I realized that that's something that I'm really passionate about. Is like, I think that's why I'm on social media. I really enjoy teaching people and like informing them about like what I learned. And so it's going to be both of those things. So yes, actually starting a farm. I think that it's super important to have a polyspecies farm, because each animal plays a unique role in repairing the soil. And so we'll definitely start with the basics, the chicken, pig, and cow. And then I really want sheep and goats. Goats are really good at like whacking down weeds and stuff. So you don't need that weed killer. Just throw your goats on there.
If you guys want a reality show, you're going to have to get a lot more tigers.
We need to rethink this.
That's true.
Yeah. Did you guys check out the documentary?
I watched like 3 episodes straight, and then I started to question myself. I felt really weird about myself, and I think it ended when like I found out that like the other guy like wasn't actually gay, but he was like stuck there for his weed or something. I don't know. And I was like, I gotta go. Or else I'm gonna end up like them.
Yeah, that was a good time to eject. So yeah, good on you.
Girls, it was great having you on the show today. Where can people find you?
Yeah. Oh, you can go.
So we're on both Instagram and YouTube. Same name, STrong.Sistas, SISTAS. And then our website is a little bit more formal, ArmstrongSisters.com. And stay tuned for our farm coming out 2021, hopefully.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And we're working on a cookbook with Dr. Paul Saladino coming out in 2020.
It'll be like carnivore-ish, so it's animal-based.
Yeah.
Basically.
So we've been working on that for a while, and we're really excited about that being released.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you guys for having us on.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right.
The Strong Sistas. That was great.
That was cool. Man, they really were strong. It's like shit.
They're diving all in on that farming, huh?
That's pretty. I mean, shit. That's awesome. More people should probably try to do something like that.
I'm impressed with that deadlift, because like I don't know how big they are. They don't look massive, but she's like, I deadlifted 400. I'm like, huh, damn. Okay.
Yeah, I think they both are close to a 400-pound deadlift. Mm-hmm. That's pretty awesome.
It is.
Damn.
I like the nuance of the conversation though, because like they're coming from a very different place than a lot of people that are trying to diet. I'm not going to say most, but a lot of people that are, you know, getting on the whole dieting train are trying to lose a lot of body fat. They're a lot bigger and they have the habit of not having structure. They have the habit of eating too much. So when they do input some structure, they can learn from that. Just like when we started fasting, when I started fasting, I was doing like 20 hours every single day. And then I stopped, I started doing 16. And then I have some days where I don't fast. I have some days where I only, you know, fast for maybe 12 hours, but it's more nuanced. And it's because I went in one direction, it gave me a little bit more control to come back to the middle. And I really like that we even saw that with them.
I also think that people just don't need to be in such a rush. You know, there's really no reason to be in such a rush. So, and then also I would even say like, I don't know, if you're 50 pounds overweight and you're really trying to lose weight, you know, fairly quickly, it still might not be in your best interest. In fact, I know it's not in your best interest to try to lose the weight quick. You're better off having something more sustainable, because as we talk to with like guys like Joel Green, they say kind of the quicker that you lose the weight, the more likely you are to gain the weight back and gain it back rapidly. It's gonna have like a elastic band.
Oh no, I lost you guys.
Everybody good to go?
We're good to go.
Whoa.
Sorry about that. I lost everybody.
We all lost.
Yeah. I think
we lost out.
Yeah, like you were saying, the government's listening now because of that Batar episode.
Yeah, I saw, I think Brian Rose had him on his podcast too. Yeah.
If you could remember where your train of thought was when you're talking about Joel Green. And,
I was just talking about losing weight too quick and how your weight can kind of snap back if you lose weight super fast. I'm not discouraging anyone to lose weight. You know, not saying that you need to lose weight slow. I'm just saying sometimes we're in a rush and we'll fast and we'll exercise and we'll do too much, but really it's to our detriment, because it's not really about where you're going to be 6 months from now or even a year from now. It's kind of more about what are you going to look like in about 2 years or 3 years, you know? Even for any of us, for how long we've trained and all the work we put in, all the time and effort that you put in, if you don't hold on to some of the disciplines, then you're not going to be able to hold on to a lot of the results. And it could be 10 years from now, if Nsima just decided like to eat whatever he wants, he's not going to look the same. You know, he's going to have gained body fat. And for me, having previously been a lot heavier, I would even look a lot worse if I, you know, lost contact with some of the things, some of the disciplines that I have. But at the same time, it doesn't mean you need to be a maniac about it. And I think we learned a lot today from listening to the STrong Sisters. I think they had a lot of great input for both male and female, because we're all so eager to get those results, get those gains, get that weight loss. But it doesn't have to happen tomorrow. You know, we're in it for the long haul. You know, make sure you're not overdoing it, make sure you're not underdoing it, and just have a good, healthy perspective on it.
Yeah. I really kind of like what you mentioned there in terms of sustainability and in terms of the disciplines, because a lot of people are able to lose a lot of fat, but then it always comes back. Kind of like, I mean, people talk about Oprah, all the times that she lost fat, but you always see her come back heavier. And it's just like an individual like you or wealthy individuals, right? Some people, they get a lot of money, and then they want to get more and more and more and more. And it causes a lot of dysfunction. It causes a lot of disciplines that are negatively affecting the rest of their life, even though they're making more and more money. It's not sustainable.
Talking to one of my friends about it right now. He's like not happy. He keeps asking me about my goals and stuff. I'm like, I ain't got no goals, dude. He's like, how the fuck do you function? How does that make any sense? I was like, I just take it day by day. I just try to do a little bit better than I did yesterday.
Exactly. And it's just like dieting, where you can take it too far. You can build dysfunctional habits. And I think one of the biggest things that we can take away from them is the ability to self-assess. Like Andrew mentioned, the self-awareness that they were talking about. You're very aware that, right now I'm not feeling good. I don't have my period. This isn't sustainable. I need to figure out a way to back out of this, rather than trying to brainwash yourself and tell yourself, I'm feeling great. This 48-hour fast that I've been doing every 2 days is awesome. Like, just because you feel that you got to do it, you got to self-assess and then figure out a way you can pivot to get to a more functional place that you can then maintain for a long period of time.
Yeah. And I mean, how big would it, people have some like certain, challenges that they're faced with that they don't want to really own up to, or they don't want to share with somebody. But like, how huge for, a young woman to have to reach out to somebody and say, hey, this thing that's supposed to happen every month that happens to everybody, it's not happening to me. So it kind of really makes you like, okay, shit, I can easily reach out and ask for help for my, hurdles right now. And I don't know, man, they were extremely, what's the term? Beyond their years. I think that's what it is,
Wise. Yeah.
Wise beyond their years. There you go. Sorry. See, I'm not. Therefore, I can't remember some of these.
Otherwise, you would have found that word, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I think Greg Glassman's to blame for all this. I think CrossFit's to blame. CrossFit has eradicated women's boobs, and it has eradicated periods from where I sit.
But has it helped the rise of like plastic surgery in that area?
Maybe. Well, it's definitely helped with the butts. The butts have gotten better looking,
and the shorts too, right?
The shorts have gotten shorter.
Mm-hmm.
Although I think those shorts always existed in volleyball, because I remember in high school always being like, hey, what are these volleyball girls up to?
But I mean, for both sides though, right? Like, guy shorts have gotten way short too.
And I remember high school, bro. Like, all the dudes, somehow we just end up in the gym during volleyball practice. Like, oh, well, what's going on in the gym right now?
Trying to play it off.
Exactly. I remember I was coaching Pioneer football, and the volleyball coach, she came over to me and she was like, I was wondering if you could show the girls, some of the stuff you're doing with the guys. And this woman's, of course, she's got to be smoking hot too, right? And I look in and I'm like, I don't really have time, because I was like, I started a gym and I was like, and I'm training these boys and I'd love to help them. But she's like, you can't go in there and just show them a couple things. I was just like, that doesn't seem like a good spot for me. Especially with how I would joke all the time with the guys. I probably shouldn't have said half the stuff I said to them. I can't imagine I'm going to get in a lot of trouble being around these young girls like this.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man. Yo, this is a great podcast, man. Too many laughs. You said something that I just couldn't stop laughing at. I forgot what it was.
Oh yeah. It was just
about the happiness test.
About the happiness test, bro. That shit. And then, if you guys haven't seen it, there's this post that I sent to my girlfriend. You posted it yesterday about the wine.
Yeah.
Wine.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this actually could really well work. Hey, you look really great in brown.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. You're looking great in those sweatpants. Here's a glass of wine.
Oh God. But we love women. And we love our ladies too. So we just want to make that clear. We're just joking around, having some fun. All right.
Oh God. Yeah, I think it's on a different note, other than what we just had on the podcast here today. It seems like things are kind of like maybe going to calm down a little bit. It seems like things are going to open up. In Georgia, they had enough balls to finally pull the trigger, but it's kind of weird. Out of the entire world, you got like Sweden. I'm unaware if there's other countries, so somebody can correct me if I'm wrong here. And Georgia are like the only two spots. I'm sure there's other places, but those are the only ones I'm aware of that have said, hey, let's go about our business. I don't think Sweden has ever even shut down. I don't think they even bothered to do that. Now, they have a different luxury than we do because they don't have people nearly as sick as we do here in the United States. And I think I would say, like, my frustration has my main point of, like, interest, and the main thing that I've been trying to communicate is just like we were unhealthy before. We were very unhealthy before COVID ever started. We were very unhealthy before, and a lot of what's happening right now reminds me of when you're a little kid and the teacher tells you to, like, pick up the classroom, or the teacher tells you have X amount of time to do a certain amount of work, and they say freeze, and everyone, like, stops dead in their tracks, and you're just frozen with whatever amount of work that you got done. And I was always the kid that was, like, behind, but I think that's exactly what's happened here. Is this COVID thing hit, coronavirus hit, and it's like, okay, pause. Where are you at? Like, where are you at financially? Where are you at in society? Where are you at physically? Where are you at mentally? And I think that a lot of people, when the pause button was hit, weren't too happy about about the progress that they made or didn't make. And I think that I just view the coronavirus, as mean as this may sound, as payment. You don't get away with just eating whatever you want. You don't get away with just doing whatever you want. It's going to cause problems. It's going to cause inflammation. It's going to wreak havoc on your body. And when it does that, you're going to be in compromised position that is going to eventually your luck will run out. For some people, they can live to 100 years old that way. For other people, they might live to 70. For other people, they might die, before they're 45, So that's just kind of the way I see it,
No, I seriously see and you kind of hit it on the money there when you said a lot of people, when the freeze button was pressed, they weren't happy with everything that was going on. And, like, there were so many people that have messaged me saying, once this, like, lifts, I'm getting myself back into jujitsu. And these are people that haven't done jujitsu in years. And without this pause on everything, and it's kind of like forcing you to it literally does really force you to think about where you are right now. Think about the decisions you made. Think about all the things you weren't doing that you've been wanting to do, but you just didn't because life was normal. And now, since you're forced to sit at home, you're forced to reflect and figure out all the things that you've been wanting to do and say, once this ends, I'm going to get right back into it. I'm going to start dieting. I'm going to work out. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. It's done the same thing to me. It's done the same thing to me.
Yeah. A lot of people are realizing the things that we took for granted. I mean, I think we're all definitely a little guilty of that. Like the meme I threw up of Jordan holding the gym as the trophy. Yeah. Somebody was like, dude, I took everything for granted. And it's like, fuck, I'm never doing that again though. So yeah, I think it's definitely going to wake up a lot of people.
I saw a lot of people, like, out on the beach, not here where I'm at, but I saw, some pictures and stuff, and they showed it on the news. And then I heard, like, Gavin Newsom basically just talking about, like, law enforcement, how they're going to enforce, more strictly and stuff like that. And, you got to do what you got to do. But at the same time, I was just sitting there waiting and hoping that he would give some explanations. I know that they probably feel like the explanations are out there, but I just don't really at this stage. So I guess my question is this: is Mr. Gavin Newsom, why in the world are we going to sit around and wait 2 extra weeks for you to just give us the go ahead? Because that's more than likely what's going to happen. And so is it him being excited to listen to himself or does he have, like, is there a medical reason? Is there a real reason? People are talking about, like, going outside without a mask on, how you can kill other people. If that's your thinking, which that's fine, you're entitled to your own line of thinking. That's what living in a free country is all about. But if you're of that line of thinking, then that was always the case, because viruses, it's not like viruses didn't exist before coronavirus came around. So if you're of the opinion that if you go to a supermarket which, by the way, going to a supermarket is not necessarily an essential thing. Like these are all things that if they wanted to shut them down, they would have shut down everything. Flights are not canceled. Like planes are still flying. Like there's still a lot of stuff going on. So it's hard to make sense of it. You're like, well, why does that make sense? Even if you are to fly right now, you don't even need a mask. You're supposed to wear a mask, I guess, like in the airport. But I guess on the plane, I don't know if they changed that like today or yesterday or something, but I was hearing them talking about it. A lot of the stuff that's going on, and that's my main thing, is just we should really be questioning a lot of this stuff. I don't think that we just sit around. And if we do sit around, how long do you sit around for? You know, I'm a very peaceful person, but at some point, I'm just going to show up to the grocery store without a fucking mask on, because I'm going to feel the same way a lot of other people are. And a lot of other people are going to start to do stuff like that. So hopefully some of these things get changed, or hopefully, Gavin Newsom can stop talking about personal protective equipment and start talking about how we get back to business, how we get back to living our lives.
Yeah, no, it's crazy because it's like I've been seeing a lot of people at grocery. I didn't have my mask on when we went shopping yesterday. I didn't. I forgot it, and I kind of just forgot about everything. We just went, we did our thing, and my girlfriend was like, I kind of feel like those young people that old people wag their fingers at, because we're just walking around here and we don't have our masks on, and everybody else, not everybody, but a lot of people did. It really is just a little bit overblown.
Yeah.
But what can you do? Just wait it out.
I guess so. Hopefully, I mean, I don't know, man. I know we've had some people on the podcast that raised some eyebrows, I guess we can put it. But I mean, it does make you think, and it makes you question things, like Mark was saying, like, yeah, we should be questioning things. Again, like I haven't actually dug into whether it's true or not about, like, hospitals saying, or hospitals getting paid more money if they have COVID-19 patients and whatnot. But I don't know. I don't want to say it seems like complete bullshit, but like I carry myself a lot differently now with the information that I've been receiving and that I have received. There you go. And yeah, dude, people do look at me weird when I do go to the store with no mask on. It's just, I don't know. Like I definitely feel like
where I'm at, you're not allowed to even go into the grocery store without a mask on.
That's interesting. And I think things are going to be getting back to normal sooner than you think, because I was just telling you guys the other day, down here in Placer, a gym literally just opened back up. A big gym, fitness system. They just opened back up. There is a jiu-jitsu school, the Rice Bros. They're opening back up. They're in Grass Valley. They're opened on Monday, right? There's a lot of places that are just like, I don't think the government is really enforcing in some places that businesses stay closed. Businesses are just closing because it's suggested. Mm-hmm. But it's getting to a point where they're like, no, we're not going to survive if we don't open back up. We need to. So we're going to start, and we're going to take the precautions that we need to take. But we got to start something.
Yeah, it's just it's a weird time, and I just, out of all the different people that I communicate with, out of all the different people that I talk to, and this could be like confirmation bias. It could just happen to be the people that I communicate with, but behind closed doors, everyone's saying the same thing. Like, this virus is very similar to the flu. It's very similar to influenza, and it's it obviously has a different impact, and it's hitting people harder, and it's compromising their respiratory system. But in the end, I don't know if we're going to see more deaths from this than what we have. And I know that some people are like, we already have, because they got these numbers, but those numbers numbers are not conclusive yet. We need to wait. We need to wait and see, what we end up learning from all this. But I think we're just going to look back at this, I think like a year from now or so, and just think to ourselves, like, we really made a lot of decisions that, having some retrospect and looking back at it, we could have done things differently, because like we've said many podcasts ago, or as it's been said on this podcast many podcasts ago, a government cannot prevent or stop a virus. So I don't know if you guys saw the it's on Netflix. They have a coronavirus like kind of documentary type thing. You guys see that?
I skimmed across it, but I didn't want to watch it because I didn't know who made it.
Yeah, no, it's it has its own agenda, of course, but just it explaining viruses in general is pretty cool, and it's very clean. Like it just explains a lot of the science of viruses. But yeah, I mean, it's playing to like, yeah, stay at home, wash your hands type of deal. But I found it interesting that, like, you know, the more deadly a virus is, the harder it is for the virus to be spread around, because like so that's something to be aware of. Like if you're ever watching the news and it's like 75 people fucking drop dead in a 48-hour period, like, you know, then you have a reason to be terrified. But at the same time, if those people, you know, if they drop dead from a virus that killed them that quickly, it's very unlikely the virus will be able to get anywhere. It'd be a lot easier to quarantine or shelter, and that's when it would make the most sense, is when something like that. But I just think everyone's going to get this fucking thing anyway, and I think that millions upon millions upon millions of people have already had it.
Yeah, no, the infection numbers that, like, we've been talking about multiple episodes, when more people are going to be able to get tested and they add that number to the amount of like people who have been infected, people who have died, the percentage of corona deaths are just going to go down, and it's going to be crazy, but we shall see.
Andrew, you get some training in today?
Yeah, I hit legs, hit both legs this morning.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just this. I'm doing step up to reverse lunge, and then Bulgarian squats with that, and it kills me. I'm like, I can't believe how like lit up my quads are right now. It hurts.
You're doing a step up to a reverse lunge and Bulgarian split squats?
Not at the same time, so not like a superset or anything, but those two in particular have been crushing me.
Yeah, that does sound painful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and my knee, I mean, you know, when we were out running all over the place with you, Mark, my knee was bugging me. It felt really good the following day. So like Saturday or Sunday, it felt okay. And then again, today, I'll just get reminded like, oh man, my knee's a little messed up. So not messed up. It's just, I don't know what's going on with it. It's been kind of acting weird since the cut at the end of last year. But I'm still able to do all these things. I'm still able to get in a really good workout, and it's at home. So, feeling pretty good. Now I just got to get the diet app back up to 10 out of 10. You know, no more sneaking in like what, you know, even if they are protein bars, like, it's okay. And it's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I've been throwing in a little bit of lunges too now, and just because like I think when you guys were here, we were talking about them a lot, and I was like, yeah, you know, I need to have some lunges in there. And it's amazing because getting myself to do most things when it's related to exercise isn't hard. But for me to be like, yep, I'm going to do some lunges. Like it's like a block in my head, because like they kind of bug my knees. I mean, once I do 15 of them or 20 of them, the pain's gone. Like my knees are warmed up. I'm good to go. But man, I'm really a bitch with lunges. So I've been trying to do a lot better with those. And I got my 100 squats in today. I got my 100 squats, 100 push-ups. I mean, I don't know. It's easy to think now that I'm going to keep them around forever, but you know, it seems simple enough for me to keep them around forever. So I'm digging it. I think it's probably been, you know, 20 days or so, or, you know, approximately 3 weeks in straight that I've been doing 100 of both. The push-ups I tried today just to I was just curious to see how many I can like knock out in a row, and I did 60. But I think I can do a little bit better. I'm going to try it again in a couple of days and see if I can beat that. But what's been keeping me pumped about all these workouts is that I just set goal. I just like each time when I finish a workout, I try to, whether it's a squat or the push-ups or whatever, I just try to do a little bit more reps, or I try to do a little bit more reps in a row. Like when I've been squatting, I'm like, I'll do 30 reps in a row. And then I did 40 reps in a row. You know, so that's just little stuff, you know. And when I run too, I time. I was showing you guys like the different hills that I timed and stuff. And I ran a hill yesterday and just compared it to one that I did about 2 weeks ago, and I was able to run it faster. And I was like, cool, like there's PR city going on over here.
Yeah, no, it's going to be, there's so much that we're going to be able to do. But I was talking to Andrew about this because you mentioned you were timing your runs. I've been using this thing. It's been tracking my sleep. And then when the Apple Watch comes back, I'm going to use that so I can see my heart rate during all my exercises. And then once I get an Oura Ring, I'm going to be able to have a better algorithm for my sleep because of what Dr. the dentist said. I'm just going to be decked out in all this different equipment.
Yeah, you'll be able to track everything.
Track absolutely everything. Become the million. What is it? Is it the $7 million man? $9 million man? I forgot what he's called.
I think he's $7 million.
Is it $7 million man?
I think so.
Give or take $1 million.
Do you know the reference though?
Yeah,
no?
I know of the name, but I never watched any of it.
I've never seen it either. I've just heard people reference it. So whatever.
We're terrible.
We are.
All right, peeps. I'm going to get out of here and go enjoy the beach.
Is it
nice.
Open now or is it still closed?
Oh yeah,
it's still closed.
Those bastards.
Just go sneak on in. They won't see you. You blend in with the sand.
There are some spots where you could go and they can't like get you. So maybe I'll go there.
Nice.
There we go.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you everybody for checking out this episode. Thank you to Piedmontese for sponsoring. Thank you everybody that's been rating and reviewing the podcast on iTunes. That helps us out a ton. Please make sure you're following the podcast at Mark Bell's Power Project on Instagram, at MB Power Project on TikTok and Twitter. My IG is at I am Andrew Z. And if my name was Nsima, where would I be?
At Nsima Inyang on Instagram and YouTube. At Nsima Yin Yang on TikTok and Twitter. Mark?
I am at Mark Smelly Bell on YouTube, Instagram, and all over the damn place. Strength is never weakness. Weakness never strength. Catch y'all later.